Hello and welcome back, all 5 of you. My name is Pilot Merchant, and somehow whenever I wasn't paying any attention to the numbers, we managed to cross over a pretty big milestone for this little channel of ours. We, after a year's worth of effort, have actually found a way to get to 100 subscribers, and that's crazy to me because I've been trying to achieve this very goal for fucking ever, and I'm kind of confused about what to do next. I'm not really sure how to celebrate either. But I would like to say a quick thank you to, of course, everybody who believes in me and wants to see more of my content. Thank you to you. And also, I wanted to say thank you to those people who I can always rely on, showing up in the comment sections, talking to people, having lovely conversations. People like you guys, especially Mary and Noops, are the 2 main ones who I have talked to outside of YouTube, and you guys help a lot. Thank you so much for your support, and hopefully you'll stick around for the next 100. Wow, that's a big number. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much, because I still can't believe that I've crossed over this milestone. I've been trying for so long, and I couldn't be here without you guys. And to celebrate this achievement of ours, I wanted to introduce you guys to a TV show that I grew up with that lives rent-free in the back of my head. The show is called Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, and the best way to describe it is it's essentially almost identical in the way that they tell stories and the storyboarding and all of that. It's almost identical to the way that Real Ghost was, if you guys remember that video. Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction is a TV show that aired on Sci-Fi from 1997 to 2002, which those of you who watched my videos a year ago will likely recognize the Sci-Fi channel as the same place that decided to air Stan Lee's Harpies. So as you can already tell, they definitely, obviously, most certainly make very good choices when trying to decide what to air. During the show's 4-season escapade, they managed to somehow get Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek on board with the show. How they did that, I'm not really sure, but there's a lot of meme material in the show alone, so I can't be too upset. But what is the show about? Well, the show's entire premise is pretty fun, actually. Basically, they tell us a series of stories about 5 and have us guess which ones we think really happened and which ones they made up. But the ones that they say happened are honestly not believable in, any way, fashion, or form. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the stories had actually happened at some point or were actually pretty true to life, but considering the fact that the episode we're watching, its main highlight in the description is it involves a psychic horse. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and call PS on that one. But if this show sounds like something that you'd be interested in, then please stick around for this 100 subscriber celebration, whatever you want to call it, because it is now time to get into Season 2, Episode 6 of Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction. Upon starting the episode, we're immediately greeted by Mr. Frakes saying something completely random.
The real and the unreal often live side by side.
This is then followed up by a short Twilight Zone-esque intro where for some reason a completely new narrator explains the concept of the show to us. That concept being none other than sometimes things beyond belief happen. And once again, considering the fact that this episode involves a quote-unquote psychic horse, I'd say that that's a rather accurate description for what we're about to see. Moving right along though, after Frakes gives us an introduction, it's finally time to watch our first story of the night, Bright Lights. We open up on a shot inside of a diner while this unnamed lady, who I'll be referring to as Diane for no reason in particular, explains to us that she's currently on a trip to see her grandmother, but while on the way it seems as if Red Riding Hood here managed to get lost. Once she's taken enough time to get her bearings, she prepares to head out, but before Diane manages to get up from a table, this rather rough looking fella named Gunnar walks over and tries to strike up a friendly conversation. Having no interest in men that look like they'd fit in better at a biker bar at this time of night, however, Diane gently rejects all of Gunnar's advances and swiftly makes her way to her car. Once she gets back onto the main road, everything seems to be going rather swimmingly. Well, that is until a reckless endangerment-prone driver starts to aggressively follow closely to her and begins to alternate between honking his horn and flashing his brights. This, for rather obvious reasons, petrifies Diane, who then decides to logically react by doing absolutely nothing about the situation until the tailgater starts to try to knock her off the freaking road with a pit maneuver. Finally, fully grasping the danger level in this predicament, Diane decides to fully accelerate away from Maid of the tow truck in an effort to put some distance between both of them. Somehow in the process, however, she must have forgot to carry Gloria 1 or something, because she didn't really account for the truck also having the full capability to fully accelerate as well. Needless to say, the truck manages to catch back up with her, and so Diana's forced to move on to plan B, which is using an in-car telephone. Instead of helping in any way whatsoever though, the phone only manages to disconnect near immediately, thus effectively making me wonder why they even bothered installing in-car telephones in the first place. The pursuit only manages to come to a halt when Diane hydroplanes and her car refuses to work because reasons. After the truck comes to a stop, Gunnar then jumps out of it hoisting a shotgun and approaching the car while demanding for Diane to get out of the vehicle. Rather than attempting to kidnap Diane or worse, he then demands for a secondary person to exit the vehicle. This of course confuses Diane until to her and the audience's surprise, a second party then exits the vehicle. Gunnar then instructs the fella to stand with his hands on the roof and to make no sudden movements as police sirens ring out in the background. And just as quickly as it began, the story is wrapped up and we're back to speaking to Mr. Frakes as he throws more riddles at us.
The man we perceive to be a villain turns out a hero. Bright lights that seemed so threatening were really beacons of protection.
I can't help but to think that they write him in particular to make him sound smarter than he really is. He is really a man after my own heart, I tell you what. After a short commercial break, we meet back up with John, who is now deciding to show us his shopping trolley full of rubbish that he stole from a homeless man during the adverts.
Are these street people merely collecting cast-off rubbish, or are there treasures to be discovered in their receptacles?
Nah. I think it's just trash. In this story, we follow a man by the name of Lenny while he's on his afternoon jog. During his jog, he stops by to say hello to his friend Gloria, who just so happens to be homeless. After offering her a couple bucks, he continues on his jog, but soon gets stopped by a couple of young good-for-nothing hoodlums who end up stealing all of his possessions, minus his banana boxers, and leaving him locked up inside of an old zoo cage. Luckily enough for Lenny, Gloria wanders by on her way back to her camp and of course stops to help free him. Once she gets him out, she immediately starts to look in her cart of goodies for something that the poor pantsed man can wear. And wouldn't you believe it, Gloria managed to find something that will perfectly fit Lenny.
It's not really my color.
Ah, drat. If only I had dumpster dived behind an American Express before this. I mean, look man, it's either the blue and yellow supersuit or a misdemeanor charge for public indecency. Ultimately, Lenny opts to go with the supersuit, which according to Mr. Frakes, who is narrating the story, gives him superpowers somehow. Conveniently enough for us, Lenny ends up running back into his two best friends and showing them his newfound ability to throw people through the air without trying very hard. I'm not even sure if that's physically possible. The story then wraps up with Lenny getting most of his stuff back from the goons and Gloria and him going off to get lunch somewhere. Before heading to our next commercial break, Johnny then asks us once again if we think this story is true or not, which I desperately hope that this one isn't a lie. But finding out the answer for that will have to wait for later, because it's now time to move on to Story Trace. Before we start the next one though, I would like to say yes, I do realize that the pacing is a bit odd whenever I'm telling these stories, but that's really, honestly, not any fault of my own. I mean, like, it's genuinely just kinda how the show is written. They're trying to squeeze 5 stories into a 48-minute or something similar like that time frame. So every story ends up being like 4 to 8 minutes long, and it's kinda hard for me to, you know, make it sound like it's flowing any better than it really is. So we come back to seeing Mr. Frakes sitting at a desk telling us about why teachers are so important for society, which I absolutely agree with him on that. But just when you think the guy has finally started to make some sense, he goes and turns them tables on you and basically chucks any points you put in the normal people column right out the fucking window.
But she's about to meet a student who'll change all that. A student in a class by himself.
The only thing that's beyond belief is how you managed to have a career after this. So if you couldn't tell by Jonathan's little speech about teachers, in this story we follow Vanessa, who is a teacher of a class that clearly could care less about school. While Vanessa's minding her own business, her kids are supposed to be writing a brief essay about what they want to do when they grow up. To Vanessa's disdain, however, when the time comes to collect the essay, she finds that very few of the students actually wrote anything on the paper, so wondering why practically no one wrote a word, she decides to confront the class about it. And the answer that the kids give is a bit sad and disturbing, if you ask me.
Know why I didn't answer it? Because I ain't sure I'm going to even live to see 18.
After that short display of reckless abandon, she hurries the kids off to the next class, but just when she believes that everyone has left the room, she ends up seeing a student that she doesn't recognize whatsoever. Just before the kid heads out of the classroom, he drops an essay off at the desk. Practically shrugging off the oddness of the situation, Vanessa starts to read over the essay and finds that the kid wants to be a teacher and that he thinks that Vanessa is doing a marvelous job. When she finishes reading, she notices the kid approaching her desk very scarily while saying no words at all. This then causes Vanessa to jump back from her desk, which just so happens to be at a perfect time because not even a second later, later, the desk is riddled with bullet holes. And after that momentary state of shock, Vanny looks back over at the kid, who is now smiling because it turns out that he was actually just trying to help her get out of harm's way before anything could happen. Not long after, another teacher and the principal bust through Vanessa's door to see if she's okay.
That's the second drive-by this year.
Excuse me, what? So if you couldn't tell by all the weird stuff that just happened, it turns out that the unknown kid turned out to be a ghost of a kid who passed away in another drive-by years before Vanessa got the job here. And just like that, we're back to good old Frakes telling us more riddles. But let's not take any time to slow down, I'm both fired up now, oh boy! So after John takes a moment to show us his best attempt at art,
Pay close attention to them, analyze them, appreciate them.
calm down, John. We get introduced to Errol Potter, who is currently taking a life insurance policy out on himself just in case anything were to happen to him, so in the event that he passes, his family is able to be taken care of. Thankfully though, that policy won't need to come in handy for a long time, will it? Oh, well, that's unlucky. Kinda lucky too, to be honest. So after watching Earl's kid Billy get traumatized, we flash forward to some point in the future where Marlene, Earl's widow, is currently packing all of Billy and her stuff up because they're being forced to move out of their house due to not having any money. And the reason that they're broke, even though Earl had a life insurance policy he literally just took out, is because Marlene never took a second to ask Earl how she'd be able to get a hold of said policy. Things, however, start to take a turn when Billy starts bringing drawings over to his mom that have random bits of information about where to look for the policy at. Despite the fact that this makes absolutely no sense, the story continues on anyways, and somehow the little bits of information that Billy kept conjuring up via his drawings end up spelling out that there's a very specific bank where Earl had a very specific safety deposit box at, and that's of course where the policy ends up being at. So after Marlene convinces the bank manager to let her inside of the box, she ends up finding the policy, and no joke, it literally just ends after that. This story was legitimately 4 minutes long. Do you see now why I'm struggling to put something cohesive together? And with that, we only have one more story to tell. And I've been waiting for this one the entire time. Yes, my friends, it's finally time for the psychic horse. Legit, I'm not even gonna give John an opportunity to say anything about this one, because no matter what he says, he cannot convince me that the psychic horse didn't actually happen. I fully believe in this horse. In fact, I dubbed thee as my new lord and savior. All bow for the psychic horse, please. Okay, so this story starts off by explaining to us how exactly the horse, who's named Count Mystery, by the way, because of course he is able to do his psychic thing. Basically what happens is you ask him a question and he just kind of spells out the answer using these little alphabetical thingies. Oh, and just so you know, Count Mystery over here apparently has solved 8 crimes in the past using this method, so yeah, there you go. Moving on to the actual story, we learn that a little kid named Tanner at the ripe old age of 7 was left unwatched by his parents as he went wandering around the woods. Naturally, the boy ends up getting completely lost, and so the entirety of the town is brought together in an effort to find the child. For the rest of the story, we follow this news reporter named Gerald as him and his camera person go around doing their best to spread word of the missing child. After one of the news segments, the camera lady brings up an old report that they did with Count Mystery in it, and she convinces Gerald to go back and ask the horse where the kid might be. Gerald eventually makes his way into doing just that, and we find out
The boy's alive in the well up in the old camp.
yep, it's the "oh, kid fell down a well" gag. Where's he at, lassie? To trusting the horse's psychic opinion, Gerald and some police officers go to the old camp, and what do you know, they find Tanner in an old well out there. Tanner is saved, Gerald has a successful newscast, and somehow Tanner's mom isn't arrested for child neglect. After this, John of course asks us once again whether we think this story really happened or not, and that leads us into the final part of the episode where we have to make our final predictions on which one really happened and which ones really didn't. So for my guesses, I'm gonna say that Bright Lights, that one that the lady was being chased by the dude in the tow truck, I think that one happened. I think that the teacher one happened as well. Because I don't think it happened, but I think they're going to tell us that it's true. And because, of course I do, I hope that Count Mystery is real. I want Count Mystery to be real, and if he's not, I'm gonna make him a thing. If you want to take a second and, make your own predictions, I'll wait. You ready? Okay. We're gonna go ahead and do this, and so it turns out that bright lights didn't happen, but the one where the dude puts on a superhero suit and gets superpowers, that one happened. It turns out that the teacher who narrowly avoided being game-ended, that one didn't happen. However, the little kid who was being contacted with bank information from beyond the grave and putting them in the drawings, yeah, that one did happen, believe it or not, you know. But on a good note, Count Mystery is real. Even though I was wrong about the others, I don't really care, because Count Mystery was real, baby. Man, that's the only detective we will ever need, ever again. Every single police office should employ a psychic horse. Praise be the psychic horse. And with that, that's going to be the end of our, believe it or not, fact or fiction episode, which is pretty crazy. So usually after I do my little story breakdown, story retellings, whatever you want to call them, usually whenever I'm done doing my thing, I will give rating 1 out of 5 to say how much it is rewatchable. And honestly, this show, on the level of quality itself, if we were ranking it off of quality, 2, maybe even 1 out of 5. This show is so full of shit, it makes no sense at all. Nothing about this show made any sense to me. Thing is, I really enjoyed it. And if I needed to kill time in an afternoon, I 100% would consider watching this show. So I think that it balances out to a solid 4 out of 5, which in most cases means that if it's on and you're watching it, I'd probably sit down and watch it for a bit. But in this case, I don't know. I feel like I could picture myself turning it on for like a party, or like if you know, having a sleepover and I got bored, you know, like I could turn this on and, you know, face the consequences of your judgment, I suppose. But that's going to be it for me today. Thank you so much for reaching 100 subscribers. I couldn't do it without you. Again, this is an achievement for both of us, so thank you so much. If you like this video, then like this video. If you have any suggestions or anything that you want to see on this channel, just leave it down in the comments. I shall get back to you. And if you want to join my now 3-figure army, is a lot of YouTubers like to call army, we're more of a militia. Well, not even that, we're more like a night watch, kinda. But if you want to join up and you want to see more from me, then please consider subscribing. I make one movie review, show review, whatever. I make one of these little commentary thingies at least once a month. So just consider subscribing. And yeah, that's gonna be it from me. Thank you again. I can't thank you enough. So thank you. I hope you have a lovely day. And please remember that you are important and that you matter. Praise be the psychic horse!